Hello, good evening. I thought tonight we'd have a look at some trees for the layout. And you've probably had a look round all on these online sites, and you'll see sort of quite low quality trees that, you know, they're all sort of very uniformed, don't look that realistic. If you're on a budget, and you can get some obviously a little bit better ones, and they do look a little bit better, but they're still a little bit unrealistic to a degree, you know, and they're a bit too much uniform. So I picked them up quite a long time ago, when I was sort of, actually quite a few years back now, when I first started, and I didn't really like them, but it was all I could sort of afford and all I could use. There is some really good quality trees out there, Woodland Scenics do some, but they could be £20 for a tree, and it's like ridiculous price. So I want to have a go at just making my own, and I've done this in the past, and I really want, on the layout, I want it sort of more wintry look. So I thought I'd do some oak trees. So I'm not sure if that's how that's coming out on the camera, but we'll get in close and have a look. These are just made from bits of wire twisted together, and then using seafoam just to glue onto the edge. And then these are only half complete at the moment, they're going to need to be sprayed up, and I want them as like a more of a autumn winter scene. And this is like in the UK, obviously around October, November, you know, end of September sort of thing, you would get that sort of look on the trees. I did start to have a look at just creating some other types of trees as well, but you know, because I wasn't sure if I wanted more of a summer feel. Obviously this one's still work in progress. And this one I did buy fairly recently, these really cheap tree armatures, and they're hideously made pieces of plastic, but you can actually just trim them all up, and then start to get where have I put oh yeah, so you can then start to use some of the clump foliage like from Woodland Scenics or something like that, and then start getting that glued on. I did a covering of sort of a bit of flock first when I was doing this one, just to take away some of the plastic feel and the plastic look. I did actually try putting some air drying clay over this one as well, so and it didn't really work that well, so it all peeled off because it was plastic. So I decided that that wasn't the route that I wanted to do either. You know, it doesn't look bad to a degree, and with a bit more improvement that would actually improve quite a bit. But let's start really by making some of these more oak trees. So let me just get in close so you can actually see what we're making. Alright, I've got some different gauges of wire here. I think this is 24 gauge, and I think this is like 28, 30 gauge. I've only just received this, and just on delivery just a few minutes ago, so I've just cut it into a few pieces about 10 centimeters long, and same with these. This is what I made the first ones out of, and it's better for, I would say, 00 gauge, and I thought I'll try and get something a bit thinner, but I think that's just too thin, but I'll see. I'm going to twist some of these together anyway, and start to give you a feel of how the sort of the trunks are going to be looking. And let's get all these strands started. Seem to be losing one. Okay, I'm actually downstairs today rather than in the spare room because it's just so warm in the UK today. I haven't got all of the equipment upstairs, downstairs that I have upstairs, so let's start twisting these together. And if you find they're just a bit too big, just trim a bit more off. So I remember I am going to be using this on an end gauge, so but they've got to be reasonably tall, you know, obviously 2mm to the foot, but you do get some very large oak trees and obviously different sized trees all. So I'm just going to twist a few of these branches together just to give it a different sort of depth on this. And that seems to be okay. So how I did the previous ones, I actually put all the air drying clay over this. I'm just going to trim these down a little bit because these are a bit long. So I don't want huge branches, you know, they're at this thickness. Okay, that's about how really I want this one. I think that one's a little bit long as well. So I think that's quite a nice size. I'm just going to smear a bit of air drying clay. If you find it's a bit too wet, you can always drop a little bit of water on there. Just gives it a little bit more pliability, if that's the correct word. Make sure you've got a cloth to hand if you're using this, because it does get messy. I think I've got way too much on there. I just want to smear this around. If you find it cracks and has gaps and things like that, you can always put a bit more on. But remember, trees all grow in strange sort of forms. They're not all uniformed. That's why I'm not keen on these plastic trees that we get. They all come out the same mould, and somebody in China just adds a bit of flock to them, you know. So I think we could do that ourselves much better. So this is actually quite a tall tree compared to the two other ones. So I may trim this one down a little bit at the bottom, you know, so still want it massive, you know. I mean, these do take a bit of time to dry. Those previous ones, they was drying overnight, and then you're going to need just let the glue all dry and everything, and then you want to paint them. So take a couple of days really to make a handful of trees. Not with time to make them, but just time to let everything dry. So it is the beauty about the plastic homage ones, and so you can actually make trees fairly quickly. some of this is just a bit too thick, so I'm going to send it at a time. This into the shape that I want. And she's just going to use these helping hands. And a few. Let me just put these other pieces to one side just for the moment. I think we've probably okay. So there is seafoam. Now you can actually use these as standalone trees as well. So sometimes they actually look quite good just used like this, and that would become quite a nice sort of oak tree. You know, sort of a bit of a slimmer version, but you can just trim them up a little bit, but it's quite a good material. Be warned, it's not cheap. You just get a small box like this, and this is just £10, you know, so but we want to get a few smaller pieces. I don't want to waste every single piece out of this, so let's and then we're going to just glue them onto the metal branches that I've got there. So I'm just going to trim a few of these pieces up. And we're going to tidy these up afterwards then. So I just want to just going to use some super glue. Doesn't really matter how much you use, or you know, you don't have to be that accurate, but obviously the less, the easier it is to dry. This one looks a little bit I'm just going to keep going along until we've got all the branches that we want. Obviously, if I wanted to do this as more of a summer scene, I'd have used some finer wire for all the branches, and then just put the like the woodland scenic clump foliage over it. Struggling to get this to stick, and I've dropped one off. Obviously putting more and more glue on when I probably don't need to put any more on. This one over here, I think it's got enough glue on it. I'll be normally doing this in a better position. I'm just trying to show you the camera working easier. What do we have left there? Not very good pieces. So let's get some more. and it just does not want to stay on there. Let's twist this up a little bit more. There we go, that's better. And it's just really keep going along until you've got the desired look. So we've got this piece here, okay. I just cannot get this to stick tonight. Okay, that's all right. I think there's a bit of branch just there. Right, I'm going to leave that to dry. I'm just going to pop it over into just this piece of card. Allow those to dry. So I'm going to carry on making a few more, and then I'm going to get these painted once they're all dry. It's now 24 hours later. All the clay is dried, all the glue is dried. Everything all seems to look good. I've got all the trees that I need to make, and now I just need to start spraying them. I've just tested the colour out on just one of these, so you can see it's a nice dark oak, and the colour that I'm using is Army Painter Colour Primer, and this is dark oak brown. So as you can see, that's the colour it's supposed to be out, and actually does look that right colour. Okay, I'm just going to get these sprayed up, and here's really just want to spray all the lower parts. So I'll just make sure this is all nicely shaken up. I'm just getting the tree from underneath as well. So as some of the leaves would have been brown. Right, I'm going to carry on continuing with the rest of these, and we'll have a look what they look like on the layout. I've just placed the trees on the layout at the moment. I've not fixed them in place, so I can always move them. So this is the sort of effect I was sort of looking for, with a late autumn, sort of early winter feel. Most of the leaves have already fallen off. I will actually put a bit more leaves around the bottom of all the trees. I haven't got any scatter to do that at the moment, so you can see how I want them to look on the embankment there. Once I get the backdrop on there, it will look a lot better. I can't find a winter sort of like an autumn backdrop at the moment. I did buy a Derbyshire Hills, as this layout is set in Derbyshire, but I don't know whether that's going to be suitable. But I really need to decide on that another time. But I thought I'd let you have a look at how the canal turned out as well. As you can see, we've got a very nice smooth surface to it. There's one or two little bits that wasn't totally perfect, but water isn't. But you can see a good reflection of the trees and things like that in there. So I didn't need to do any more extra pours or anything like that. This was just one. Let it dry for. Let it dry for at least 3 to 5 days. It was before I even started moving the layout. So and don't be tempted to touch it. As you can see, I've just got a couple of one sort of air bubble there, but it's nothing major. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and hopefully you can make some of your own trees. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.